Good evening to everyone present here tonight. My name is Brian and I will be your host for tonight. On behalf of the JPO family, we'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone tuning in for tonight's broadcast. We hope that everyone is doing well and staying safe indoors. A friendly reminder to maintain good hygiene at all times and maintain social distancing when heading out. As we'd like to continue improving your experience with us, please help us achieve this by completing the poll that will be published during this broadcast. To anyone who is interested in sharing tonight's broadcast, a live feed is being shared on the JPO YouTube channel. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free to type them out in the Q&A section down below. For our YouTube audience, please type your questions down in the live chat down below. A recording of the webinar will also be uploaded onto the YouTube channel. Tonight's seminar features the Tang Quartet, with the topic being the endeavors of establishing and maintaining a professional quartet. We have Mr. Yu-Ying as the first violin, Mr. Chek Meng on the second violin, Mr. Han Oh as their violist, and Mr. Leslie Tan as their cellist. As our JPO family attendees are mostly students ranging from primary school to college, their parents and their teachers, the sharing of knowledge and advice here for all of us tonight is invaluable and greatly appreciated. The JPO is very honored to have the Tang Quartet join in as our guests for tonight. I hope you will all join me in giving them a warm welcome. The Tang Quartet has been active for the past 28 years. During this period, they have been known for many things, such as being groundbreaking, cutting edge, and artistically impeccable. However, they do acknowledge that this was only possible due to hard work, constant innovation, and steady reinvention. This has allowed the group's musical dexterity to surprise and delight audiences in Singapore and the rest of the world. The quartet's music has been classified as smart, sharp, and diverse, which is largely due to the members' charisma and intuitive connection as a group. The Tang Quartet's creative output has been referred to as an artful blend of the East and the West, seamlessly reinterpreting classical works for contemporary fans while appealing to traditional audiences. Throughout the years, the Tang Quartet has collaborated and performed with contemporaries and friends renowned in the music industry, such as Paul Katz, Norman Fisher, John Chen, Chin Li Wei, Karen Schaub, Noriko Ogawa, as well as Carter Enyart. The three members that have been present since the establishment of the quartet are Mr. Yu-Ying, Mr. Ang Chek Meng, and Mr. Leslie Tan. Mr. Yu-Ying had received awards such as the Alex Templeton Prize and the Roth Prize during his student years, and performed in several concerts and live television programs in the Czech Republic. He has also been a member of the violin faculty at the Yong-Siew-Toh Conservatory of Music since its opening and is widely sought after as an instructor. In addition to this, Mr. Ang Chek Meng has been awarded as the winner of the Singapore National Music Competition for 2 years and has been awarded various other scholarships during his student years, such as the Countess of Munster Trust Scholarship. He now shares his passion of music with the new generation of young musicians as a faculty member of both of the Yong-Siew-Toh Conservatory of Music. Furthermore, Mr. Leslie Tan has an extensive background with the Singapore Symphony Orchestra and has also performed at major venues and festivals across the globe, with some performances even being broadcasted by the BBC in London. He also serves as a faculty member of the Yong-Siew-Toh Conservatory of Music. He has also delved into other forms of art, collaborating with artists in dance, theatre, and popular music. Together as the Tang Quartet, they had performed in festivals across the world, such as the Aspen Music Festival and the Tanglewood Festival in the USA, the Melbourne Festival in Australia, as well as the New Zealand Arts Festival. In 2020, the distinguished violist Mr. Han Oh joined the quartet to form the present group, bringing with him a wealth of experience as a studio artiste and as an award-winning musician in the field of popular music, with various international recording credits since 1997. He has also served as an instructor for several youth orchestras, and in 2014 was appointed the first Yamaha silent electric string artist from Singapore. As a playful reference to the last names of the original founding members, the Tang in the quartet's name also symbolizes the golden age of cultural expression in the Tang dynasty, which also serves as an acknowledgement of their Asian roots. So without further ado, once again, a very good evening to the Tang Quartet. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for the invitation. Good evening to everyone.
Hi there. Hi, Brian. Thanks for
Hello.
introducing us.
Thank you for joining us tonight. So to start off tonight's interview, what can you tell us about the video we had just watched?
The first video you featured for us, it's from a performance that we did last November 2019 at the Yong-Siew-Toh Conservatory of Music. It's one of the late Beethoven series that we put together since about a year or two ago. And we wanted to feature all late Beethoven quartets. But then each concert, each late Beethoven that we feature, we always couple with another piece. And each concert has a theme, but mainly based on Beethoven's late quartets. And so in that concert, we did Opus 132. My bad. Opus 131. And what you heard was the Dvorak Opus 51 string quartet and the third movement. And with that concert, we had a guest violist from UK, originally from Singapore, Mr. Lim Ziqian, but he's moved to UK for quite many years, and we invited him back to Yong-Siew-Toh to conduct some classes, and as well as joining us as our guest violist. Okay. And the second video was we came up with that music video for our latest album, Trampled Souls. And that concert was, that video was done with our original founding violist, Mr. Lionel Tan. So you see that in that video, we obviously were not in Singapore. we went to Australia. We did a festival there, and we also at the same time made that music video to promote our album.
Okay, so was there any particular reason behind the animal masks though, or was that the artistic direction of the group?
It was, well, I guess it was artistic input from our music director. I mean, the piece that we play, it's by Marian Mozettich, and the title of the piece is Lament in the Trampled Garden.
Okay.
And it's a very dramatic piece. It's got it's just like live. It's got a lot of ups and downs and quite turbulent journey. It's a 13-minute long piece, but it is really a roller coaster kind of piece with a lot of emotional swing. And as you can hear, we started with a very quiet pizzicato, and then how it just escalates to a very dramatic height, emotional height. And so I think the director had also a lot of ideas in putting, I guess it was a fun element to the music video.
All right. Thanks for sharing that with us. So let's start off with an easy one. So how did the group come to form a quartet? Was the musical scene in Singapore promising at the time, or was it a challenging journey making a name for yourselves? Would you care to elaborate a bit on this?
Well, I mean, I think our first sort of public concert as a string quartet was in 1992. How we started together was we were all members of the Singapore Symphony Orchestra, and when I was all four of us were given scholarships by the government to go to London to study at different colleges, and I was being the youngest member. I mean, I was the last one to come back to Singapore. And Leslie, Yu-Ying, and Lionel, they had already been sort of like playing with a pianist. It's sort of a piano quartet, and it was sort of like and then when I came back, I mean, Yu-Ying and I grew up together. We had same violin teachers, went for same festivals, competitions, whatever, and so it was always like kind of like we were like brothers growing up. And Lionel and Leslie being brothers, so it sort of made sense. And and Lionel as well had the same viola teacher as the Yu-Ying and I. So we already knew one another. We had informal jamming sessions before while we were back on holidays and things like that. And so it was kind of things just fell in place when I came back, and they said, okay, let's do a quartet. I mean, playing the orchestra is a lot of fun, but we want to do more than that. And we wanted to do more than that. And so we would do, like, we had rehearsals, and after our orchestra rehearsals, which were in the mornings, and then we'll rehearse in the afternoon, and then naturally it sort of led to concerts, and then we sort of enjoyed playing the quartet repertoire. We enjoyed working with one another, and so that's how the Tang Quartet started. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, the scene back then, I came back 1990. We all took back then the Singapore Symphony Orchestra scholarship, and in return we had to devote our 8 years to the SSO. I mean, back then it's like we're glad that we come back to our homeland and with a job secure. So that for us, I mean, at least for me, it's a job secure, and I get to perform concerts every weekend, and so it was promising in a way that, you know, I get a job and I get to play with great guest conductors, and the orchestra was thriving, and then we started forming this quartet. So we make ourselves very busy, and well, hopefully that was valid. So I think it was, although there was already a couple of string quartets from the orchestra, but we were very dedicated We wanted to spend as much time as possible, apart from being professional orchestra musician. But we felt that we would really want to put in a lot more effort in the quartet. And so almost every year or every half year, we would try to come up with concert program. And back then, quartet concert was mostly hosted by the SSO Chamber Concert. And can you believe back then, the price for attending a quartet concert was like $3 and $5?
I don't know, 5 or 8, something like
or 5 or 8,
Yeah.
really dirt cheap. But we did it for the love of music, for quartet.
All right. Well, thanks for both of your inputs on this. So, in your opinion, what are the key factors that distinguishes a professional quartet from an amateur one? Maybe either Leslie or Han can contribute to this.
The same thing that distinguishes a professional anything from an amateur anything, right? I mean, is that the amount of time you spend working on things, and the delivery of it, the consistent delivery of it, I think, and that's it, and to high levels, of course. And I think it's not just about a string quartet or a violinist or a cellist, but in any occupation, the dedication to the art or to the craft.
Okay, thanks for that. Han, do you have anything? Do you have anything to add to this?
Well, I agree with Leslie completely, and I also think that it's this drive to constantly improve and evolve. Yeah, that makes a difference. We all do it for the love. A professional group and an amateur group, they can do it for the love of playing chamber music. They could equally love playing equally much, but it's the level we try to reach and constantly seek breakthroughs. Yeah, that makes the difference. I think we literally live and breathe quartet. Yeah, the whole time.
All right. Well, thanks for that. I guess that does come true as what I mentioned earlier on. You guys do acknowledge that it does involve hard work and your sense of reinvention and such. So yeah, that definitely sounds like it would be the main thing that distinguishes a professional with an amateur. So yeah. So moving on. So as the quartet has been around for the past 28 years, how has it been maintaining the group? Would you care to elaborate on the challenges in doing so?
Well, we I guess in any musician's life you go through phases, right? Because just like composers, they go through phases. I mean, I would say when we started in SSO and then we started the quartet, that was like kind of the honeymoon period. We had fun. We sort of it was kind of almost semi-pro kind of thing. And then we thought that we need to learn a little bit more about string quartet playing. We need to hone our skills a little bit better, okay, as string quartet. So after about 5 years of playing together, we decided, let's go apply for some position as a string quartet and go and learn string quartet full time. That's when we as the four of us in 1997 we sort of took leave from the symphony orchestra, and then we left as a group to study at Rice University. We were the first quartet in residence there. We were selected out of a selection. Some 6 groups that auditioned for the position. So we were lucky to be selected to be the first one. And when we got there, there was like kind of a different. That's when things became kind of more serious. We have 10 to 5 rehearsals, 10 o'clock in the morning to 5. So like a full-time job. We work intensively on quartet repertoire. We work on all the intricacies of string quartet playing. We had guidance from, we sought the guidance of all the different professors there, and we tried to learn as much as we could from every professor that was willing to share. And in America, it's wonderful because you don't just like you're not in just the university. Then you in summer you can travel to the Tango Institute. You can travel to Aspen Festival, and then they have all the. We've been lucky to work to have been able to play for all the really really big name of quartet members, and they've always been of such help. I mean, they've always been very generous. I mean, I met this just few names like the Emersons, the who else?
Gosh,
Takash. Yeah, I mean they were
American Quartet.
they're so wonderful teachers. I mean, not just teachers. They are like they treat us like friends. You know, they because they love the art, then they wanted to share. They wanted to share what they have known, what they have learned with all. Then they could see our passion in learning, and they were so willing to share with all us, and we really appreciate that. Yeah. And then of course somebody went, and then after we graduated from university there, and then we took part in some competitions. We were lucky to get some prizes, and then we had offers to stay in the United States as a string quartet to work there professionally, but we all decided. I mean, it had to be. We had to come home to share what we know in Singapore. Yeah.
And back then, when we came back, 99. I mean, it's coming from amateur string quartet back then, part-time string quartet, full-time SSO, Singapore Symphony Orchestra. And then we took a plunge of 2 years, honing our skills, or trying to be professional. And so 99 simply decided to come back professional. What profession? Nobody has traveled this professional route before. And when we come back, there's no job ready for us, like we came back from our undergraduate study. So we really had to pave our way, knock on doors, beg people, and of course with great help from National Arts Council, which introduced us to lots of festival directors and trying to promote us. And we realized, I mean, how, like what Leslie said, a lot of time needs to be spent together. It's like for years of learning our individual instrument, you are in your room, practice room, dedicate all your time, all your thoughts on your instrument, left hand, right hand, whatever, coordination. And then now it's like coordinating with 3 other of your colleagues. They're not just colleagues, we spend more time with them than our girlfriends, or now eventually a couple of us have families or whatever. So that's a lot. It requires a lot of dedication and patience, and also how dedication to the music, and keep pushing our standards of playing as a quartet, and that requires all 4 of us to have the same mindset, same level of dedication. And that, I think, really makes distinguish a professional quartet or to amateur.
Thanks again to Czech and Yu-Ying for sharing these points. So as you mentioned earlier on, you did have a violist that was together with you when you first formed the quartet, Lionel, if I'm not mistaken. So from what I hear, he had to retire not too long ago. So how difficult was it to find a suitable violist, and how were you guys sure that Mr. Han O met your requirements both as a performer and for the sake of the group's dynamic?
Well, Han is not the first time that he has joined us.
Okay.
Lionel has been with us since the very beginning. Like Jack explained, we were childhood friends. We were from the same orchestra, although at different time. And then since the quartet started, we traveled the journey from, being amateur orchestra, string quartet, to studying together, spending lots of time together, going to festivals. I share you one history. Upon our first year going to United States, of course, we spent 2 semesters, spending a lot of time together, taking lessons and at the Rice University. When summer came, we applied for 3 festivals. We first went to Audubon. We studied with Audubon Quartet. That was 2 weeks. And then after that, straight to Boulder, Colorado, another 2 weeks of intensive learning with the Takash Quartet, followed by another 8 weeks at Aspen Festival. So altogether 12 weeks. That 12 weeks is like a semester at the university. So by the end of that summer, we were so beat, we almost break up. Because we spent so much time together studying and arguing and working for the music. And when you're passionate about that genre of music, and we all bring in to the quartet ideas, different opinions, and that needed time to work it out. And it was quite a challenging year for us. But it was very, very fruitful experience.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that with us.
With regards, sorry, Brian. With regards to finding a violist, right? Actually, because Han actually played with us about 10 years back.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because Lionel, our original violist, had to take a year and a half off because he had some shoulder issues and things like that. So Han was highly recommended by Lionel, because Han actually studied with Lionel on the viola. So and so obviously, I mean, of course, I mean, we take Lionel's recommendation very seriously. And so while Lionel was away, Han joined us and we had fun. We went on many concert tours with Han, and I think we had so this is not the first time that we're working with him. So as for having a requirement, I think it's not about a requirement, but I mean Han's professional ability is not in doubt. I think it's more about finding a right fit. And not having a right fit is also not just like Han having to come in and play like us. We also have to come in and adjust and find a group sound together. So that's the key of playing chamber music. I mean, you can't expect a clone of Lionel who we're used to. So we have to. I mean, it will take time. I mean, because thankfully we've played with him before, so it's a little bit easier. But in like any change, I mean, we've had many big name string quartets. They've had new members come in, and it evolves. I mean, and it changes. New York Phil or Cleveland Symphony might have their Cleveland Orchestra will have their sound, particular string sound, and new players come in, it'll be the same. But whereas for a string quartet, it's more intimate. It's 4 very important parts, 4 equal parts. So it's kind of there's no formula. You know, we have to find a different type of sound, and we played with many other guest violists as well, and we've appreciated working with them. And it's always an interesting journey, interesting discovery with every violist that we work with. And so I mean, right now we have started. I mean, in the pandemic, we don't have much things to do except rehearse, right? And so we're trying to learn about one another and hopefully be able to come out with a cohesive and interesting, evolved string quartet. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for that. So Leslie, do you have anything to add to this?
Well, we've talked so much about it. I think basically what the guys say are true. With an evolution, and this is an evolution, we just need to embrace that change, and with every working group that comes along, with every group, right, every quartet that comes along, and when there's a change, it's never comfortable because you're used to a status quo. But in order to just move forward, you have to embraced that change, and it helped that we had played with Han before. And in fact, when Yu-Ying mentioned that uh, we went on that first summer, I think we met Han. Wasn't Han already in America? Then Han, were you in America? Then did we not meet you there?
Yes.
I was there actually in Rice. I was there with another quartet, with my quartet that time in America, and we met up in Rice. You guys took us out
That's
for.
right. That's right. So we it's quite Han is very familiar to us, and the music circles in Singapore is pretty small. So we hear of each other and we know each other's playing, and so that sort of thing. And what Han brings to the quartet is very different than what we used to, in the sense that he is very well versed in studio work. Being in the studio, Han is a Grammy Award winning violist, and he brings to our older style, although our style is cutting edge, it's still an older style. Han brings to it that popular music edge, which we've been lacking so far, and I think that's a very important element to move forward in the next few years, because things are changing very quickly, and sadly, a lot of classical musicians don't embrace popular music as much as they need to, because the classical music of today was popular music of that time, and we have to realize that, and we don't. So with Han, we are realizing that this is a very important element to include in our persona, our DNA.
Many thanks to all three of you for your inputs there. So now we're moving on to Han. So what led so what led to you joining the group, and how did it feel when you first joined them?
Oh, do you mean 10 years ago, or like now, or both?
I mean, like even back then, because like they've said, like you were sort of already part of the group even back then.
Oh, before then, back then, I was completely. When I first played with them, I was completely intimidated, because I was like, all these, really, really great, chamber musicians that I am working with. I have very, very interesting relationships with all of them, actually. Like you said, Lionel was my teacher. I'll bring out something really interesting. Leslie was my first chamber music teacher. Can you believe it? Because I was in the Singapore National Youth Orchestra, which was called Singapore Youth Orchestra then, and they had a chamber music program, and I was assigned to play the quartet, and Leslie was assigned to teach the quartet, and so it was really So he was my first quartet teacher, if you will. Yu-Ying was my neighbor. They took
Okay.
and I did national service with Czech in the music drama company. So it's a great experience. I knew them from before, but having to work with them professionally, it's an amazing process. I got really to know them very intimately within the music. Um, and then they had a very special way of looking at perspective of a piece of music that I had to learn and understand as well. So this time around, when I joined, I was really excited as well, and I was also really excited to see how the group had evolved within the span of a decade. And I was genuinely really happy to be back playing with them, and yeah, it's been amazing so far. Actually, So this time around, it was not as much intimidating, but uh, I think we've grown and have lots more ideas coming out now. So I mean, there's this chemistry from before. I think that really helped.
I'm definitely glad to hear that you guys are getting along, getting along better as well. So yeah, that's good. We do have a bit of time for a few more questions. So yeah, so as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has made things a bit difficult for all professions, especially with musicians being one of the many severely affected by it. So how have you as a group been dealing with this? Other than, I think it was Czech that said, other than just staying in and practicing as a group, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So other than this, how have you guys been dealing with lockdowns and the pandemic in general?
Well, I mean, on different levels. I mean, individually, I think all of us we do whole other. I mean, like we all teach at the conservatory, so those things still continue. So those are the things that currently sort of keep us going as professional musicians. I mean, to earn our keep, some kind of thing, to bring the bread home to help to tie us over this period. Of course, for the important thing that we really love to do, which is the string quartet. Okay, I mean, we are a professional string quartet, and so as a professional string quartet, you have a professional setup, meaning you have management, you have agents that represent you, and 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 so those have sort of like taken a hit. I mean, because like there are not many jobs going around, and not many. How there are no venues available for you to perform, right, live to audience. So things are changing. The pandemic has posed a challenge to musicians, and I think as musicians, instead of crying, over spilled milk, you have to find a way. And I think all musical groups here in Singapore are trying to find ways to connect with the audience, to find new ways to connect with the audience. Why are we doing this? Why is music important to continue to be present in the community, right? So this is the reason why we play music anyway. And on that level, that is a challenge. We do have all different ideas. I mean, we all contribute different ideas and how we can. I mean, me being on the board of for example, the Singapore Symphony Orchestra. I mean, the thoughts of like digitizing digitizing no monetizing digital concerts, because a lot of online concerts are going on now, but then online concerts doesn't make the group any money. It doesn't help sustain the group, right? So there are thoughts on this, and there are also thoughts on how we can share our expertise online, and people finding sponsors to support these programs and things like that. And it's finding different ways to connect when it's not physically possible. For me, that's the key challenge here. Yeah.
All right. So how about the other members? Maybe Leslie or Han, maybe you guys have something to contribute to this as well?
I think basically with this COVID, you just sit and you create new content. I've been creating some new content. Obviously, as a string quartet, it's impossible to create content, and I know there's some groups who are trying and using various programs, right? They're linking up online, but there's always the lapse in time that makes it more difficult, makes it impossible almost to play really in time. But it's been done, and it's quite a nice experiment. It has thrown everything into a spin cycle, and everyone, not just musicians, are a little lost in this sense. But therefore we are creating, and our first concert with Han will be actually in December, and it'll be an online affair, and it's for charity, and it's one of those things that a lot of people are doing, and there's the danger of online content, people becoming tired of online content, but this whole idea of online content could become part of the new normal, because I think we've been too obsessed. I feel personally with concert hall performances. I know people still say, "Oh, there's nothing like a concert hall performance," but when you think back 30 years ago, in Singapore, there was one symphony orchestra, there was one youth orchestra, there was not even an amateur orchestra, and we got by with it. We got by with listening to CDs. We got by to listen, not CDs, cassette tapes and all that. And I think, in fact, that experience is more precious and more intense, because when we listened, we really did listen. Now people go to concert as an event. It is the glamour of going to a concert more than just let's listen. Let's really listen. The younger musicians don't know how to listen anymore. And I think maybe it's good that we cut back, I feel, the whole um, event obsession that we need to be at the concert hall. We don't need to be at the concert hall. The audience doesn't need you. If you really do listen, you with your score, in hand at home, and that's the ideal situation where you can actually study the score and listen to what's happening. And if you're not sure, you can always, the wonderful thing about online, things being digitalized and being online, you can always replay it, you can always go back to it, you can always listen to it, you can make comparisons. Whereas at the concert hall, it is it is just history. Everything, the moment a single note is played, it becomes history and you can't take it back, and your recall is not perfect. However, if it's online, recalls are there. You can recall, you rewind, you play back, and it's there, perfect. And you can make comparisons, and you can study, and you can learn from that.
Aha, you play a wrong note.
No, but I think the idea of wanting to be perfect in recordings is incorrect as well. So you can listen to very boring recordings that are perfect, simply because I think they have been edited so much so that the spirit of it is lost. There are very few artists who will who can manage to even play perfectly in tune. There's this incident where Hi-Fats played a wrong note, and the producer said to him, "Mr. Hi-Fats, that E flat there was a bit sharp," and he said, "Just let's let the critic worry about that. I'm not worried about that. Let the critic worry about that." So I mean, basically that's it. Even Hi-Fat said that, and I think we become obsessed with perfection. If you listen to the old recordings, it's just so many mistakes in there, but the spirit is retained, and I think we need to go back to that.
I mean, I agree with Leslie. I mean, in terms of, as a human being, I think this pandemic, what it has brought us is to, in the lockdown, you sort of start to think, what is really important. Sometimes we're just busy with ourselves with things that we don't actually need to do, and so you choose, and there's no choice. I mean, there are only certain things you need to do. You need to go about buy food. You need to go out. I mean, so it's a little bit like with concerts as well. There's this sensory overload. Then the people need to have visual, need to have this, need to have that, and becomes the what is the core of a musical concert becomes a little bit diluted. And so I mean, it's relevant. I mean, in this pandemic, personally find that it's amazing because I've had time to think, okay, do I actually enjoy that quiet walk at night, around my neighborhood, and instead of like being out somewhere partying or something, So
It's not just at night, it's in the middle of the day. You can go and
yeah,
walk. I
exactly.
cycle in the middle of the day in the streets, and it's so quiet, and your focus becomes very different. You know what I'm saying? The focus is, we've been bombarded with so many events, so many
Yeah,
impulses all over. We get lost, and that's terrible.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for that. We are running a bit short on time here, so I think I'll just move on to the last question I have for you guys. So, as you may have heard, the Jesselton Philharmonic Orchestra has involved itself in a variety of activities. So, on behalf of the JPO, we would like to ask about your views on the JPO and its activities. Additionally, how would you suggest that the JPO and its members further improve itself? Maybe I can leave this question for Han.
Well, I think JPO is doing a really fantastic thing. I think it's taking music to people, the gift of music to people. I think that's a really fantastic thing, and then getting involved with um, people who are underprivileged as well. I hear just getting access to instruments, to teachers. I think that's a really great thing, and then connecting them with teachers overseas. I think in this aspect, I think JPO is ahead of many teaching organizations here, because you're doing online classes way before this pandemic, right? That's from what I understand. I think it's really great. I mean, uh, uh, whereas what you guys can do more, I feel that perhaps more of exposure, more of just getting them to giving them more get them more platforms to perform. I think like exposure to different music, different kinds of music. I mean, how they can apply it. Not all of them will become professional classical players, but maybe the skills can be directed to a genre of music that they actually love and excel with. I think that could be great. Yeah, if you could identify and help them along that route. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Han. So yeah, I think with that we'll have to move on to the Q&A section because we do have a few questions coming in from the audience now. So yeah, so our first question is coming from someone. So they're saying hello. So may I know if you all have a set formula to dissolve any disagreements within the group?
Throw the chair. No, no, there's no.
I don't think there's such a thing as a set formula. I think when we have disagreements, and they happen very often, to be honest, disagreements will happen if you have four people who have four very diverse views, which is very good for an artistic organization. The friction creates, and that's very important. But it's just a question of essentially one thing we learned very early in our careers when we were in America is you go straight to the score if you have a disagreement. And if you actually look at the score, the original score, not the what we're talking about, the Urtext editions, right? Not the edited ones already, but the one that the composer intended for public viewing. When you go to the score tells you very much what to do and what not to do. And happily, a lot of musicians are now slowly getting into this, and working from Urtext editions have become a very, very big thing. And when you look at the scores and you study the score, so for example, sometimes you say, oh no, we need to do a crescendo here, and then somebody says no. Okay, there's a disagreement. But if you look at the score and you realize that, okay, maybe this chord from a chord 1 that goes to a diminished chord there, perhaps we don't want to do a crescendo because there is a diminished chord. Maybe we want to bring attention to the diminished chord without blaring it out because it's a diminished chord or otherwise. So then you can talk about that. So that helps you solve situations of disagreements. And very often it's all these things. It's just a question of how loud to play, how soft to play. Fast, slow, that's not so much of a problem. And the other way to do it is, okay, let's just do it for this concert this time, and then for the next concert we do it another time. And we've been taught also that you may have disagreements, but the challenge is always, if you are a good enough musician, just to do what the other person wants you to do, right? So I think that's one thing that I
think Leslie is right, as in the willingness to try and to create. Nobody's right or wrong. I mean, but then there's one important, first step is what Leslie suggested. Go to the score, go to authenticate your views, and then with that, we could try. If we're still not, if one of us still not fully convinced, the other three, or it could be divided by half, must be willing to give that idea a shot. Okay.
I think every group will tell you, and this I'm very sure of. You may have disagreement during that rehearsal time, right? And that particular 2 minutes or whatever in the passage, and you will argue very badly about it. But the next day you come back and say, okay, I will try this. You go home, you think about it, and next day the views change. Let's say if I disagree with Yu-Ying, the next day Yu-Ying will go home that night and I will go home that night. We think about it, and next day we come back and say, hey, I think your view makes sense. And then you find that suddenly we switch positions already. And
no, I like your way.
Yes, it happens like that very often because you give it thought, you see. So that is that formula. I think maybe just to say, if there's a formula, just to say, okay, let's put it on the back burner. Let's give it some time. And then time can solve issues like that.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing your views on that. So yeah, I hope that person is happy with your answers there. So yeah, moving on, we have another question from someone else. So they're saying that almost all of the performances that the Tang Quartet did were conveyed in some sort of conceptual images and feeds. Would you all like to share with us your thoughts on this?
I think conceptual images are very, very crucial. conceptual ideas. I mean, these things are very. It's not enough to just to say I would like to perform this piece. Um, I think you need to say why you want to perform this piece, and if you want to perform this piece, what other pieces will fall together with that in that program. What other things you need to do. It's not enough just to say I like this, so I therefore I do it. We're not animals, so we need to think, and we are entertainers. And I think for the audience, the experience of going to a concert and feeling connected throughout the entire performance is a very important thing. Whether we do it on video, and you've seen our videos of, for example, the Trampled Garden, the Lament, right? With the animal shapes and all that, because the music had a sense of bizarre about it, bizarreness. So we put in those images to heighten that sense of weirdness, the slow motion of that dancer, it's surreal almost. So the things like that, and when we've always planned our concerts with a theme. There's always been a theme to our concerts. I don't mean when I say a theme means like, okay, so a lot of, I know like there's a lot of bands in Singapore when they do a school bands, they do a concert and they call it Allegro 1 or Appassionato, and then they just throw in a whole bunch of pieces. I mean, it's a nice title, but some of the pieces are not Appassionato as well. So you need to connect these things so that the audience goes there and they understand the full concept, because it is the before and the after that matters almost almost more than what you're presenting during, if you know what I'm saying.
I think the reasons also why we came out with conceptual ideas is to sell the concert. I mean, in music is kind of can be abstract, right? I mean, especially for audiences that are not familiar. I mean, because after all, we're Asian, we're playing music that it's like Western, and so some of these images or concepts is to help make it easier for our audience to understand, and also to make it a little bit easier for them to say, okay, I that sounds interesting. Okay, I want to come and listen and see what I will get out of this concert. So it's in some ways it's kind of a real world kind of selling tickets kind of thing. But I mean, of course, I mean, I think what our approach is more important that the audience, to help the audience who might not otherwise feel compelled to come to a concert, or might not otherwise know about the music, to understand the music a little bit more. At least they come expecting certain things, and then maybe they take something completely different out of the concert, or they say like, oh yeah, that's exactly what the concept of the concert was sold to me. Yeah.
All right. Does anybody have anything else to add to this?
Well, I just think that there's just some on top of all these these facts that my colleagues have raised. I also think that there's really something beautiful about being complementary to another discipline in the arts, like be it abstract images, or paintings, or dance. I think there's a beautiful marriage of language, yeah, within the discipline. So I mean, the disciplinary platforms is actually something that I've personally loved a lot. Yeah, so I think it's actually, it does have that value as well.
All right. Well, thanks for that. So we do have time for one last question. So we might address this one. So this person is saying, "Hello, everyone. I'm curious to know how you all actually prepare a new composition, like for a world premiere. Like, would you like to walk us through the process of doing so?"
Generally, world premieres, I mean, in some ways, it's a little bit easier than working with a dead composer. I mean, world premieres, you have the composer who's alive. So our experiences of, we've had many experiences of working with contemporary composers and their new works. And the interesting thing, my personal interesting take is that sometimes the composer actually has an idea, and he writes it down. But then when you play different from what he actually intended. but then he actually likes your version a little bit better. So it's a little bit like just now what we spoke about working with I mean, disagreements and things like that. Music is alive. Music is an imagination. Music, and so it's not like something that you notate and this is has to be this way. It has to be played like, So for me, my personal experience, I mean, of working contemporary music and having a world premiere of a work, is that you're lucky because you get to actually work with the composer, and the composer tells you what you want, and then you try to interpret it, and then you sort of even in the rehearsal process, it sort of comes together. I mean, it's not. And I've never worked with a composer where they say like, no, it has to be this way, And the composer very often always like, oh, can you just try something? I mean, this sounds quite close, but I would like it to be a little bit, rougher or cooler or whatever. I mean, and that's the fun part of working in a premiere. Of course, if you don't have the composer with you, and that's a different matter. And then that's where you have to estimate. I mean, it's just like working with it's just that you don't have the 300 years of experience of, with the classical music. You have lots of materials you can do research and all that, but with the premiere, nobody has played it, so you have to sort of like depend on your instincts. You have to depend on your knowledge of and anyway, composers don't come out from nowhere. Composers have their basic classical training. They have had their theory training and all that, and whenever they play work, modern composers maybe are a little bit more working on like sounds and different scapes and things like that. And so that's where I find just different from classical music.
All right.
Yeah.
Yu-Ying, do you have anything to add on this?
Well, I think we are very lucky in the sense that, I mean, with the technology, working on new works, whether the living composer is based on the same place as you or other place, it doesn't really matter that much. With technology, you could live stream your rehearsal, and I think we need to fully embrace all this possibility, and that's great for featuring new work, contemporary work, and things are easier to achieve and discuss and develop working with living composer. So I mean that's what we always try to do, as in mixing our the way we present the group is not just playing people's music. I wish I can call Beethoven and really ask him about certain phrase and did he intended this for Zando and things like that, but we couldn't. But then featuring new works and new upcoming composer, has always been our interest and passion.
Yeah, and even though if people can't, even if we can't get in touch with the composer himself, what we can do, I would suggest to that person is to do research on the previous compositions. So that is really important. Like if I know, like for example, if I find a piece that has never been played before by Ravel, I have no reference to it at all. It's unpublished. But how do I play it? I base my knowledge from how he writes it, what his colors, textures, other interpretations of his performances of his previous works, right? So I will do that kind of research and then formulate my own perspective on that. Yeah, approach on into the music.
All right. Well, once again, many thanks to all your responses to these questions, everyone. So yeah, sorry everyone, but we are coming to the end of tonight's broadcast. So we would like to remind everyone that our JPO family program will be broadcasted twice a week until further notice. So that's every Wednesday and Sunday night. So join us next time with our next guest, who is an Italian violinist, Mr. Dario Samarani. So more details on this can be found on our Facebook page. A video recording of tonight's broadcast will also be available on the YouTube channel, along with the past webinars and the soon-to-be broadcasted interviews. So feel free to share the Zoom webinar registration link the JPO YouTube channel and the JPO Facebook page with your friends and family. For our YouTube audience, if you are enjoying our program, please show your support by pressing the like and subscribe button down below. So once again, you guys have been an amazing audience. So yeah, we from the JPO family wishes that everyone stays safe and healthy as we continue to face this crisis together. So I will now be leading the prayer to end tonight's program. So please pray in whatever faith that you believe in regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. We pray that everyone in the world continues to stay strong in surviving through these difficult times, and that a solution to the virus will soon be found. We pray that the governments across the world continue to improve upon their efforts and decision-making so as to protect their people and curb the spread of the virus. We pray for the safety and well-being of everyone working as we approach the end of October, and as we face the new surges of cases. We pray for the continued safety and morale of the frontliners who are risking their lives so that they may continue to provide for those in need. So once again, thank you to Tang Quartet for joining us. So yeah,
Thank you.
so good night, and we hope to see you all next time.
Thanks for having us.
See you.
Bye.